Crusader Kings 3 is a medieval rulership, war, and family drama simulator game where you can play as the Vikings. But in the 1066 start date, there's just one Viking left. His name is Erik the Heathen, Prince of Sweden. My name is Koifish, and in this video I will be using my 685 hours of CK3 knowledge to restore the Asatru faith and bring back the age of the Vikings. Step 1. Survive. Being a Viking heathen in Sweden in 1066 is a dangerous place to be. Our king is a Catholic Christian and he's fully capable of revoking our title as we follow the wrong religion. There's also the possibility that a very angry Jesus lover 3000 comes out of the woodwork and chops me up with his wood axe. Safe to say, that's not good. So how are we going to avoid religious persecution? We hired the best lawyer in all of 1066 Sweden, Alte Lungtmannen. He managed to convince our nephew, King Erik, to rewrite our feudal contract. He gets more gold, but we get religious freedom. Very cool. Now with the safety of knowing that we won't be bullied for being a Viking abu, it is now time for Erik to fulfill his destiny and become king of Sweden. Since we already start with a claim on Sweden, we're eligible as a candidate in case the current king were to abdicate or, God forbid, die. But if all of this voting fraud and skullduggery is too complicated for our caveman, dopamine-addled, skibbity toilet brains, there's always the nuclear option. War is actually very useful, and there's nothing that shakes up the power struggle than a swift, well-planned, bloody civil war. A real red versus blue type situation. North against south, team femboy against team muscle mom. Whatever your taste is, I have a taste for blood, and it's not because I'm bleeding internally. So with all the plans set in motion, which one ended up being successful? 3 kings of Sweden were swiftly assassinated, before I realized that no, perhaps politics isn't my thing, and I should instead go the way of the warlord. So with the shouts of Westmanland cheering me on, and enough heck it, we ball attitude to last me for a lifetime, I pressed my demands and started the first civil war in Sweden. Onwards, our forces marched towards the capital, singing merrily as we strolled through the forest, cutting down any royalist loyalists that stood in our way. With Odin above us, strong shield brothers beside us, and blood pudding, delicious pudding made of blood! We felt as if we were unstoppable. We hunted down the king and his armies, but after many glorious victories, the king finally gave up and abdicated, and thus the heathen was crowned. With the kingdom now under a rightful Asatru ruler, a decree was sent out to all vassals of the realm. Reject cross. Embrace the Allfather. Most lords naturally rejected our proposal, but some actually converted back to the old ways, in return for some hooks on the king, guaranteeing them a royal favor when needed. This of course stressed out King Erik so much that he started to whip himself for being such a massive failure at converting his realm. So to get ourselves in a better mood, we set out to reclaim the banner of our glorious dynasty, where we can trace our lineage back all the way to the legendary Viking, Ragnar Lothbrok.
Hello?
The negotiations to get the banner went absolutely great. It started with us yelling, "For Odin!" The Danish king threw a handful of coins at us and then got struck on the head with our axe. This made him finally come to his senses, and he promptly handed over the banner to its rightful owner. We then raised a runestone of our great and glorious ascension to the throne of Sweden. Nothing screams legitimacy as having your right to rule literally written in stone. The years that followed were full of events that further secured and reshaped the realm into the old ways of the Asatru. Knights were retrained in the old ways of warfare, studying the long-lost teachings of the Viking berserkers. We held court in our throne rooms, listening to the matters of the realm, which ended up with me running a Viking daycare for some orphaned children. Not talking about children without their parents, we also sailed off on a glorious raid, the first of many to come, signaling to the world that the age of the Vikings were once more returning. We then expanded our borders north by conquering Norrland, but our chainmail had not yet dried of blood before we noticed how massive Denmark had gotten. So we put out a Viking bounty on the head of the Danish king, which some brave yngling rightfully claimed as his.
I'm dead.
But not even Odin himself could have predicted the consequences of this vile action. The gosh darn former king of England, Harald Godwinson, who just a few years previous had lost his kingdom to the Norwegians, now ruled Norway himself. Literally the most insane Uno reverse card I've ever seen. I also got caught, branding me as a dynastic kinslayer, which is not very good. So to put my mind at ease, I decided to do a very time-honored tradition. I went to Paris. Forward! The French lords and ladies were very generous and gave us plenty of gold from the French castles, which funded our very first new government agency, the VRS, Viking Revenue Service. Because what's more Viking than raiding a set percentage of your income every damn month? But to make the VRS even more effective, Sweden had its very first census. Counties were counted, gold was collected, and the former king of Sweden thought he could skirt the taxation laws by offering up a chaste baddie after a feast at his castle, which for some reason gave us the Viking trait. Now nobody knows what happened that night in that bedchamber between those two people, but it sure as heck changed the king, for better or for worse. The VRS experiment concluded with King Erik being rich as a troll, all of his vassals either being his friends or fearing him, but most importantly, all of them had converted to the old faith. It was safe to say that Asatru had once more returned to Sweden. But returning to the old ways is one thing. It is time we take this faith of the Allfather and turn it into something new, something better, something stronger than ever before. It was time for... It had been quite a few weeks since I last touched this recording, and during this time, Paradox released the absolutely not controversial, overwhelmingly positively reviewed, and loved by all DLC, Legends of the Dead. And upon booting the game, I was greeted with this. King Erik the Heathen hitting the absolute griddy as he was suffering from the holy fire. An affliction not even the best of high priests could cure. All we could do was let our beloved king dance as the music played on, all the way to his untimely demise. Yeah, buddy, I would be shocked as well if Paradox released a DLC mid-playthrough and instantly killed my character. King Erik III of Sweden had done his work, and the fourth king by the name of Erik ascends the throne. But as we were feasting at the afterparty of the funeral, the vile King Knud Svensson, the Dane, had come to seize the lands of Småland, and with him he brought the pole. We were outnumbered something fiercely, but I had one trick up my sleeve. I was unmarried, and so was my sister. And as our enemies came from the south, we looked east, marrying my friend and half-sister to the heir to one of the most powerful Finns in all of the realm, celebrating the proper Swedish Finnish way, together. And in the words of the great Polish warrior poet,
Ja pierdolę jakie bydle! Bober!
And just like that, we had defeated the Poles. And would you believe your eyes? If 10 million Danish guys crossed the straits and promptly died, we had proven ourselves in battle, and now it was time to go on the defensive. And since Norwegian forts are built out of paper mache and good hopes and dreams, they were easily conquered. And just like that, the Norwegians had been defeated. We now held 2 out of 3 holy sites that we needed. But of course, I've already prepared a claim, so into war we go. But the prospect of sailing down the Volga, let's just say it was a bit too much for Erik IV, and he suffered a fatal heart attack and died. Yay! We now play as Queen Gyta, the half-sister we married away to the Finnish boy. But you know what they say, gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss. And with that motto in mind, this absolute chat of a woman ruled from the front. And our first battle was against none other than a one-eyed dwarf. He was defeated, and just like that, we had seized the capital of Kiev. And with 3 holy sites secured, all I needed now was to boost my piety, but also spread my religion. And Gyta knew exactly what to do to get this to happen. You see, sure, Legends of the Dead did just kill our main character by dancing him to death, but it also added Protector of the Asatru Holy Sites, which at the 2nd level lets me convert my realm super quick. But before we think of anything like that, we're going to do one last Viking thing. You see, Gyta is a very, very hungry woman, and she's currently looking to gobble up England. In perhaps the biggest plot twist yet, we're going to take the son of Godwin Haraldsson and put him back on the throne of England. And so the war was launched, and to do so, we had a special weapon. The Gorsdarn Ughus Ill. And here comes the Mongols! To say that this was a part of the original plan would be lying, but to see horse archers on the Gorsdarn steps of East London was a true and worthy end. And just like that, a Godwinson was back on the throne of England, promptly being attacked by a Frenchman. Oh, history, never stop repeating herself. And after having waited for so long that Gyta herself put on the sickest of glasses and became an old lady, what we've been waiting for, the reformation of the Asatru faith, doing exactly what we set out to do. as Fyrkir, daughter of King Erik the Heathen, the original, completes the challenge, consecrates the bloodlines and thus becomes a gosh darn saint. And the final nail in the coffin, we evangelize the realm, and not only is Sweden finally Asatru again, it is also reformed. And that, my friends, is how you bring back the Vikings in Crusader Kings 3. Now let's bring back the Greeks.